Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Bobby Ellis, starring as Henry Aldrich in an episode of the-aldrich-family from 72 years ago, November 30th, 1952. And we thank you for tuning in. On this Wednesday, this is the last day of November, 334th day of the year. We have just 31 days remaining until we get to 2023. In New Orleans on this date in 1803, Spanish representatives officially transferred Louisiana Territory to a French representative. Just 20 days later, France transferred the same land to the U.S. as the Louisiana Purchase. The Jeffersonian Republican-controlled Senate began an impeachment trial on this date in 1804 against Federalist partisan Supreme Court of the United States Justice Samuel Chase. It was on this date in 1940. Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz married in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Listen, Fred, I got an awful problem on my hands. You should have thought of that before you married her.
And I love Lucy clip there, but it really was a crazy marriage that Lucy and Desi had. In 1954, in Sylacauga, Alabama, an 8.5-pound sulfide meteorite crashed through a roof and hit Mrs. Elizabeth Hodges in her living room after bouncing off her radio, giving her a bad bruise and the only unequivocal case known of a human being hit by a rock. In 1960, production of the DeSoto automobile brand ceased, and of course that made Groucho very unhappy because he sold a lot of DeSotos. In 1972, White House Press Secretary Ron Ziegler told the press there would be no more public announcements concerning American troop withdrawals from Vietnam due to the fact that troop levels were below 27,000. A little over a month after he passed away, CBS aired the final new Bing Crosby Christmas special in 1977, featuring a unique duet with Bing Crosby and youngster David Bowie. Pink Floyd released the album The Wall on this date in 1979. President Clinton signed the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act into law. That was in 1993. 1999 in Seattle. Protests against the WTO, World Trade Organization meetings by anti-globalist protesters caught police unprepared and forced the cancellation of opening ceremonies. Longtime Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings finally lost, leaving him with a mere $2.5 million, TV's all-time biggest game show haul. And it was on this date in 2018, a magnitude 7.0 earthquake with its epicenter only 15 miles from Anchorage, Alaska, caused significant property damage, but thank goodness, no deaths. Among those passing away on this date in history, the tiptoe through the tulip sky himself, Tiny Tim, swimmer Gertrude Edley, actor Paul Walker, Jim Nabors, golly, and President George Herbert Walker Bush. This is the birth date of Sir Winston Churchill.
I have never promised anything but blood, tears, toil, and sweat. We shall defend every village, every town, and every city. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
Sir Winston Churchill, born on this date in history, as was Samuel Clemens, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Virginia Mayo, Alan Sherman, Dick Crenna, Robert Guillaume of Benson fame, G. Gordon Liddy, musician Mindy McCready, and also Dick Clark.
I'm involved in a world that I really, really enjoy. I love music. I love entertainment of all kinds. Luckily, I like kids. You put all of those together, and it becomes sort of like a career that a doctor might have. You stay on top of the latest operations, the latest medications, what's new. It really doesn't have anything to do with your chronological age. You only atrophy and get old if you stop thinking of new things. And this particular area of making a living, the entertainment world, there's a big tendency to keep you young. And I feel very fortunate to still be involved. I hope to be involved till they carry me away.
And that's what they did. He was involved in it to the very end. Dick Clark, born on this date in 1929. Also born on that date, from the Children's Television Workshop, Joan Gans, the folks behind Sesame Street, Joan Gans Cooney, 93 today. Paul Stuckey of Peter, Paul, and Mary fame, 85. Frank Ifield, I Remember You, 85 years old today. From The Princess Bride, Mandy Patinkin is 70 years old. Billy Idol and His White Wedding, 67 years old today. From Whose Line Is It Anyway? Colin Mockery is 65. Stacy Q, still singing about the Two of Hearts at 64 years old. He was a standout in football, a baseball standout, and of course Tecmo Bowl. Bo Jackson. Bo knows 60, because that's what he is today. Retired professional wrestler Jushin Thunder Liger, 58 today. The son of Jerry and Ann Mira, Ben Stiller, Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira, 57 years old today. From American Idol fame and unsuccessful politician so far, Clay Aiken, 44. From 24 and The Girl Next Door, Elisha Cuthbert is 40. From The Big Bang Theory, Kaylee Kukoc is 37. Born in Delta, Utah, Mrs. John Legend, Chrissy Teigen is 37. And WWE wrestler, model, and dancer, though last we heard she wasn't wrestling, Naomi Knight, 35 years of age. Those some of the people who celebrate the last day of November as their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the Four Freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And from 70 years ago, November 30th, 1952, the Aldrich Family. And you're listening to the Wednesday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station. Bobby Ellis was the last Henry Aldrich. The show would come to an end only about 5 months after this. April 19th, 1953 would be the final episode of the Aldrich Family. And while there were a lot of people, Ezra Stone, quite frankly, was the Henry Aldrich, along with Jackie Kelk. But you will hear here the last one, Bobby Ellis, who did a pretty good job. Of course, you still had on the cast the father, House Jameson, who was just such an excellent performer. Okay, November 30th, 1952, The Aldrich Family on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Now it's The Aldrich Family on NBC. But first, this is Bob McKenzie. Beginning Monday over most of these stations, two of your favorite NBC friends will be coming to you at a new time. The first will be Bob Hope and his quips and comments. And by the way, Bob's guest editor this coming week will be screen star Ann Baxter. The second will be that master of the easy style, Dave Garroway. Now, a lot of us have gotten into the habit of tuning in, the boys, so check your newspaper for broadcast times and listen at the new time Monday for two of the most entertaining 15 minutes in radio with Bob Hope and Dave Garroway. Now it's The Aldrich Family on NBC.
Henry Aldrich!
Coming, Mother!
Yes, it's The Aldrich Family is transcribed, written by Clifford Goldsmith. The everyday existence of an average teenage boy like Henry Aldrich is always a very complicated affair. Life is one crisis after another. And if the normal run of problems isn't baffling enough, there are always adults around to make things even more difficult. The scene opens in the Aldrich breakfast nook, and the time is morning.
Well, Sam, it's good to have you downstairs again.
Thank you, Alice.
Oh, good morning, everybody.
Henry, don't you know you shouldn't whistle?
Why not, Mary?
Don't you realize Father's just recovering from a virus attack?
Oh, did it disturb you, Father?
Well, I did feel a slight draft.
Sam, I just happened to remember.
What have you got in your hand?
I forgot to take your temperature before you came down.
Alice, you're not going to take my temperature at the breakfast table.
But, dear, I really think we should.
I haven't had any temperature for 3 days.
Father, is there anything I can do for you?
No, thank you, Mary.
Henry!
Oh, gee whiz, I forgot.
Here, Sam, take this scarf and pull your bathrobe collar up.
Alice, I don't need anything more around my neck.
Can I get you anything, Father?
No, thank you. I just wish you'd all stop acting as though I were dying. After all, I'm out of bed. In fact, the doctor says I can stay downstairs 2 hours today.
May I have the hotcakes and sausage, please?
Here, dear.
Why can't I have hotcakes and sausage?
Because milk toast is better for you.
That's all I've had for 5 days.
Well, dear, if you continue to improve, how would you like a boiled potato for dinner?
That is certainly something to look forward to. If I eat my milk toast this morning, I may have a boiled potato tonight.
Henry!
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary.
Can't you see that Father's already irritable?
What do you mean I'm irritable?
Oh, by the way, Mary, when you come home this afternoon, will you be sure to put the vegetables on in time for dinner?
Oh, but Mother, I've got to run over to the hospital this afternoon.
The hospital, Mary?
Yes, Henry.
Any reason why Joe Graham can't come over here?
Father, he's an intern. He only has 2 hours off, and I told him I'd meet him there instead of his coming all the way over here.
Well, then, Henry, you'll have to get the vegetables ready when you get home from school.
Yes, Mother.
Must Henry get the vegetables ready?
Well, my goodness, Sam, I don't know why he can't peel a few potatoes and drop them in a pot. After all, I promised to work at the Red Cross today.
You mean I'm going to be left alone all day?
Henry, didn't Mary ask you not to whistle?
Oh, yes, Mother. I just can't get that tune out of my head. And, Father, don't you worry about a single thing. I'll be home the minute school is out and do anything I can to make you feel better.
That's fine, dear.
I'll take your temperature.
Henry, I don't have a temperature.
Well, then I'll keep you bundled up.
I don't want to be bundled up.
Gee whiz, then I'll just peel the potatoes.
Splendid.
Hey, hold on a second, Toby.
Hey, Henry, wait a minute. I'll walk down the hall with you.
Well, hurry up. We'll be late for biology.
You done your assignment for today?
Well, I sort of glanced through it, Homer, but that's all right. I don't have to know it.
What do you mean you don't have to know it?
Homer, I got Miss Walker's system all figured out. Now, haven't you ever noticed what she does?
Sure. What?
Well, she always calls us alphabetically. That's a fact. And last time she stopped way down in the K's.
Oh, no, Henry, you're wrong. She stopped with W. And there's only one other person after that before she comes to Aldrich.
Are you sure about that, Homer?
Sure, I'm sure. That's why I studied last night. Today she's a cinch to call in the A's and the B's.
Well, gee whiz, let me start studying this.
Well, you haven't time to cram now, Henry. The bell's going to ring any minute.
But once, Homer, once back last November, she got up to W and then started going backwards.
Well, how do you know she's going to do it again?
Well, she might, Homer. She just might.
Boy, I pity you if she doesn't, though, Henry. This is the last period of the day, and she'll make you stay after school.
But, Homer, I just can't stay after school today.
Why not?
Well, I have to go right home and peel my father.
What?
I mean the potatoes.
Well, what do you have to peel potatoes for?
Because we're going to eat them.
Oh.
Come on, cut it out.
Homer, you know what I think I better do, maybe?
What?
Get an excuse to go home and just skip biology.
Well, what do you tell Mr. Bradley?
Well, I'll just tell him frankly that I've got to put the potatoes on.
But, Henry...
Homer, you go on to class. I'm going to go into Mr. Bradley's office here.
Henry, will they take potatoes for an excuse?
Well, I don't know why they wouldn't. They're perfectly legal.
Well, so long, Henry.
So long.
Was there someone you wanted to see, Henry?
Yes, Mr. Bradley. If you haven't got anything on your mind.
Yes. Come in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bradley, I'd like to be excused from biology today.
You would? What for?
Well, I've got to help my mother get some vegetables ready.
I see. You feel vegetables are more important than biology?
Well, but I've also promised to get home and take care of my father.
Your father is ill?
Yes, sir.
How serious is his illness?
Well, he was running a temperature of 103.
103?
Yes, sir. That was about 4 days ago, and nobody knew what it was when I left this morning.
The doctor wouldn't say, huh?
My father wouldn't even let anybody near him with a thermometer.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that about your father.
Yes, sir.
Henry, is there any reason why your mother couldn't prepare the vegetables?
Well, no, Mr. Bradley, not under ordinary circumstances. But she can today, though. She's out working.
Working? Your mother's out working, Henry?
Yes, Mr. Bradley. She feels that at a time like this, it's the least she can do.
Well, I didn't know about that. Your sister Mary isn't working, though, is she?
Oh, no, sir.
Couldn't she help at home?
Well, the only trouble is she had to go to the hospital this afternoon.
To the hospital?
Yes, sir. To the general hospital.
Well, I guess there's only one thing we can do under those circumstances. I'll write out an excuse for you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bradley.
This all puts quite a responsibility on you, doesn't it, Henry?
Oh, I don't mind, Mr. Bradley, and I'm sure my entire family will appreciate this.
Now that I remember, your father wasn't present at the luncheon club Monday.
No, Mr. Bradley.
Come to think of it, I don't believe he was present last week either, was he?
No, sir. It was just a week ago today he began to go under.
And how's your mother holding up?
Well, you know Mother. Father keeps saying he wishes she wouldn't try to be two places at once. She'll exhaust herself. And him, too.
Here's your excuse, my boy.
Well, thanks again, Mr. Bradley.
And Henry, don't you worry too much about your schoolwork during this.
No, sir, Mr. Bradley. I'll try not to. Can I get you anything else, Father?
No, thank you. I have my book here.
Is your pillow all right?
Yes, thank you.
Here, I'll throw one more blanket over you.
Henry, I don't want any more blankets. Now, please let me read.
Well, just in case you do want anything, I'll be right here. Where'd I leave my knife?
What are you doing, peeling potatoes right here next to my bed?
I spread a newspaper on the floor, Father. You know what, Father? I saw somebody once who could take the whole skin off a potato in one long strip. Father?
Hmm? Who was it?
A sailor in a newsreel. He had a cat, too.
A cat? Who? Who has a cat?
The sailor.
Henry, I'm trying to read.
Oh, excuse me. You know, Mr. Bradley's a pretty nice guy, isn't he? He said he missed you at the luncheon club.
Did he?
Yes, sir. He said he hoped we'd all bear up under this.
Bear up under what?
Well, you in bed, me peeling. Father, do you like that intern at the hospital Mary's going over to see this afternoon?
Hey, Henry, I do appreciate your helping, but I would like very much to finish this book in peace and quiet.
Oh, gee whiz, I keep forgetting. Oh, boy, there's the telephone.
If that's your mother phoning from the Red Cross, tell her to stop and get some magazines on the way home.
Hello?
Henry, is that you?
Yes, Homer.
Can you come over to my house and work on our toboggan?
Well, no, Homer, not this afternoon.
Well, why not?
Because I've got my father on my hands.
But, Henry, if we don't finish our toboggan this month, we'll miss all the good sledding.
Well, wait a minute, Homer. Hold the line. Father?
Well?
Father, would you mind if Homer came over very quietly for a little while?
I'll be delighted if you stay downstairs.
Gee, thanks, Father. Homer, you can come over here.
Okay. George Johnson is here with me. I'll bring him along to help. And also Toby Smith.
Oh. Well, all right, Homer.
And Henry, what do you think happened in biology today?
What?
Miss Walker didn't even show up. She got the flu.
You didn't have any class?
No. Goodbye.
Well, imagine that. Gee whiz.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Is that you, Johnson?
Yes?
This is Bradley up at the high school.
Yes, Bradley.
You're on my committee at the luncheon club, aren't you?
Your committee?
The sick committee.
Oh, yes.
Johnson, I got some bad news this morning.
Oh, who is it?
Sam Aldrich. He's laid up.
Sam Aldrich is?
And just between ourselves, Johnson, it's apparently rather serious.
No.
Oh, yes. In bed with a high temperature. And his wife's out working. His daughter's in the hospital.
Oh, you don't say so.
Yes. Evidently, from what his son said, the family has been having a hard time just making ends meet.
But, Bradley, I always thought Sam Aldrich was pretty well fixed.
So did I. Probably everything's been piling up until this is what you might call a knockout blow.
Well, well.
And here's what I suggest. Why don't we send flowers to Sam and to his daughter, too?
Good idea.
She's at the General Hospital, I believe Henry said. Will you take care of that, Johnson?
Well, I certainly will. Only I have a better suggestion, if you don't mind.
Yes?
Well, instead of sending flowers to Sam, why don't we send something for the whole family? Say, a basket of canned goods?
You don't think he'd mind?
Oh, we don't have to say where it came from, do we?
Good idea. Take care of it, will you?
I sure will.
Goodbye, Johnson. Come in.
Are you busy, Mr. Bradley?
You wish to see me, Miss Rumford?
Mr. Bradley, is there any reason why, when the Board of Education buys window shades, they can't buy good window shades?
I beg your pardon?
I'm speaking of the shades in the school cafeteria. Those that are up won't come down, and those that are down won't go up.
Miss Rumford, please sit down a moment.
Yes, Mr. Bradley.
November 30th, 1952, The Aldrich Family on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of The Aldrich Family starring Bobby Ellis as Henry from 70 years ago, Sunday, November 30th, 1952. In the newspapers of that Sunday 70 years ago, these were some of the headlines. Senator McCarran, the Democrat of Nevada, said last night hearings of the Senate Internal Security Committee have made it obvious that nests of communists exist not only in the secondary schools, but in many colleges. He referred to public hearings the subcommittee held in New York City earlier this fall in launching a search for any subversive influence in the nation's schools and colleges. McCarran, who heads the subcommittee, said it received testimony that there have been as many as 1,500 communists teaching in schools and colleges, both public and private. McCarran saying, though this number may not seem large in comparison with the million teachers employed in the schools, the nature of the Communist Party operations makes them as dangerous as a lighted match in a powder magazine. President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower filled another top post yesterday in the international policy sphere of his forthcoming administration. He designated Senator Henry Cabot Lodge to head the U.S. mission to the United Nations. 50-year-old Lodge will succeed Ambassador Warren R. Austin, who is 75 years old and has said he wishes to retire. John Foster Dulles, the designated Secretary of State, said in announcing the appointment for Eisenhower that Lodge would be one of the administration's principal advisors and representatives in the formulation and conduct of foreign policy. Pope Pius XII yesterday appointed 24 new cardinals, including the Most Reverend James Francis A. McIntyre, Archbishop of Los Angeles, and prelates from communist Yugoslavia and Poland. Sister Elizabeth Kenny, Australian nurse famed for her methods of polio treatment, died at her home in Queensland, Australia. She was 66. Mrs. Martha Fernandez Miranda de Batista, the wife of President Batista of Cuba, arrives in Miami tomorrow en route to Daytona Beach, where the family has a home. Winnie Ruth Judd, the crafty killer, broke out of the Arizona State Hospital on a chilly Thanksgiving Day evening. He was captured in Phoenix after about 46 hours of freedom. Wily Winnie, red-headed murderer of 21 years ago, found hiding in a closet at the home of her guardian, Mrs. Faye Harvey. Vic Soule and Gene Geiger, Phoenix detectives, found her cowering under a pile of clothes, her legs pulled in under her, her back against the wall. Well, some no-good thieving varmint snuck up on a Baltimore and Ohio Railroad delivery truck in Columbus, Ohio yesterday and scooted away with a carton of Hopalong Cassidy outfits. Police say the garb was worth $100. And in Hastings, Nebraska, the birth of a son to Mrs. Hector Brullier of Hastings adds to the significance the number 7 has for her family. Mr. and Mrs. Hector Brulé now have 7 sons, 7 daughters-in-law, 7 grandsons, and 7 granddaughters. So some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, November 30th, 1952, on your radio, The Aldrich Family, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
That is all you have on your mind?
But, Mr. Bradley, there are 14 windows in the cafeteria.
I'm afraid, Miss Rumford, some of us don't know what trouble really is.
But you have Venetian blinds, Mr. Bradley.
That is not what I'm referring to. Miss Rumford, let me tell you about a student in this school. His father, we all supposed, was one of the most successful practicing lawyers in town. It now appears, however, that the man is in desperate straits.
What's the matter with him?
The last I heard, he had a temperature of 103 that was still rising. And there is a daughter in the general hospital. And his mother works out. And the boy himself has to do all the cooking for the entire family. And yet some of the members of the faculty here have been jumping on the boy for not being able to keep his mind on his studies.
Is that right?
While the rest of us go around complaining because a window shade that's down won't go up. Hello, Bradley's office.
Oh, this is Johnson again. I just had another idea.
Yes, Johnson?
I've been talking with the rest of the committee. Why don't I pick you up and we'll go over and call on Sam Aldrich this afternoon in person?
Good idea. He's probably all alone.
Sure. We'll cheer him up a little.
Right.
And Bradley.
Yes, Johnson?
Why don't I try rounding up our barbershop quartet?
We'll return to the Aldrich family in just a moment.
70 years ago, November 30th, 1952, the Aldrich family on this Wednesday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Sidney Greenstreet stars in our Thursday Classic Radio Theater in The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe from 72 years ago, December 1st, 1950, and The Case of the Brave Rabbit. What's the connection between an illegal gambling den and a rabbit farm? What clue does a dead rabbit give Mr. Wolfe to a murder in the hutch? That's coming up on tomorrow's Classic Radio Theater. But now the conclusion of the Aldrich family 70 years ago, November 30th, 1952.
And now getting back to the troubles of Henry Aldrich. Because his mother is helping at the Red Cross and Mary is visiting at the hospital, Henry is asked to be excused from school early in order to go home and take care of his father, who's recovering from a cold. His explanations, however, have been inadvertently misleading. The scene opens in Mr. Aldrich's bedroom.
Father, would you like some toast and another cup of tea?
No, thank you.
Are you sure you don't want any?
I do not want another cup of tea. You have been very helpful, Henry, all afternoon. Suppose now you take up your potatoes and your pans and your paring knife and these tea things and that cake and this pitcher of lemonade and go downstairs and let me have a little sleep.
And leave you all alone?
I won't mind one bit.
Oh, gee, Father, I don't think Mother would want you to go to sleep without someone right here to take the responsibility.
I won't mention it to your mother.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll find something you can thump on the floor with just in case you need me. And I wonder if there's anything here in this closet.
Henry, please, just forget I'm even up here.
Here, Father, which would you rather have, this umbrella or this baseball bat?
I don't care either one.
Well, go ahead, tell me. After all, you're the one that's going to have to do the thumping.
I said either one.
Well, I guess the bat would make the most noise.
All right, then give me the bat.
Well, here, I'll give you both and you can make your own choice. Now I'll just take this tray down. What was that?
The top of the butter dish.
Oh, well, I'll get it. It's right here by your bed.
Just leave it there.
Yes, sir. Goodbye for now. Whoops! Oh, I'll come back for that one, too.
Hey, you needn't come back for it. Just leave. And if you don't look out, you're going to drop another.
I got it. You don't have to worry about a thing, Father.
Henry! 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 Henry Aldrich! That's a fine thing. Henry!
Were you calling iPhone?
I was. Please answer the telephone.
Oh, yes, sir.
And then pick up what's left of this butter dish.
Yes, sir. Hello? Hello?
Who is it?
What number did you call, please?
Father, what number did you call?
I didn't call any number.
Well, I guess you called the wrong one. Operator, it's our mistake. Well, isn't that strange? Listen, Father, what do you think I found downstairs?
What?
Well, just as I went down, I happened to see somebody running off the front porch. So I opened the door, and there was a great big basket of groceries.
Why did the boy leave them at the front door?
Well, I don't know. It's canned goods and oranges, and there's 2 chickens.
Good. Apparently your mother's planning to have a real dinner for me for a change.
And right on top of this basket, there was a card.
What does it say?
Head up, chin up, chest up, grin. Step up, buck up, pep up, grin. Why would the grocer leave a message like that?
Probably the price of chicken has gone up again. Will you please pick up that broken dish?
Oh, yes, Father. Ouch! Well, imagine that.
What's the matter?
Oh, it's all right. I just cut my finger on a piece of the dish.
Let me see it.
It isn't anything.
If it's as deep as it looks, you'd better put something on it.
Well, I'll get something in the bathroom. Don't worry about it, Father.
Henry! 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 Henry, where are my slippers? Hello?
May I speak with Mrs. Aldrich, please?
Mrs. Aldrich isn't here.
Is this Mr. Aldrich?
It is.
Well, this is Miss Rumford, the cafeteria manager up at the high school.
Yes?
Mr. Aldrich, do you suppose Mrs. Aldrich would like a part-time position in our lunchroom?
I beg your pardon?
It wouldn't pay a great deal, of course, but she'd get her lunch free, and after all, that would help.
Will you say that again very slowly, please?
Father, have you seen the iodine anyplace?
Henry, I'm talking on the telephone.
What was that, Mr. Aldrich?
I'm sorry, but my son is just hurt.
Oh, isn't that too bad? My goodness, troubles never come singly, do they?
What was that?
Why don't I call when Mrs. Aldrich comes in from work and talk to her then?
That would probably be best.
Yes, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Father, do you realize you're out of bed?
Did you find the iodine?
No, sir.
Come into the bathroom with me.
Well, just look, Father.
Come with me. Now, who do you suppose that could be at the front door?
I have no idea. Oh, I'll go down.
Hey, Henry!
Is that you downstairs, Homer?
Yes, come on down. The gang's here to help finish our toboggan.
I am. Come on down.
Now, wait a minute.
Boy, Toby, you don't know a darn thing about fixing toboggans. I sure do, Homer. When you sand the bottom, you gotta hold the sander like this.
Oh, wait a minute, fellas. Look, if we're going to make any noise, we shouldn't stay here in the living room.
But, Henry, we stopped hammering on the toboggan, didn't we?
Well, sure, George, only I think my father can still hear us.
Why don't we go down in the basement?
Because, Homer, I have to be here when my father calls for help.
Come on, George. When we finish the sander, we're all through. Okay, Toby.
Oh, gee whiz. I'm sorry, Father. Now keep it quiet, fellas.
Toss the football here, Toby. Now to me, Homer.
Yeah. Nice catch, George. Back to me.
Here I am, Toby. Boy, what a pass. Here you are, Homer.
Wait, Henry, I'm tying my shoelace.
Oh, gee whiz. I'm sorry, Father.
Here's the rest of the string beans, Henry.
Gee, thanks, George.
Are we all through here in the kitchen?
Sure, Homer. The potatoes are peeled, the lettuce is washed, and the string beans are strung.
Where'll we put them?
Oh, yeah. Toby, would you reach up in that cupboard and get that big pot?
Well, I'll get it, Hen.
No, you're too short, Homer. Let Toby. Oh, gee whiz.
We're sorry, Mr. Aldrich.
Father, did you know you knocked some plaster out of the ceiling?
What's that? Goodbye, Mr. Aldrich.
Hello there, Henry.
Gee whiz, Mr. Bradley.
Howdy, son.
How do you do, Mr. Johnson?
You don't suppose we could step upstairs and say hello to your father, could we?
Why?
Is he asleep?
Henry!
No, I guess he isn't.
No, we go right up these stairs here?
Yes, sir. We're right up there.
Now, don't you overdo, Henry. You've got quite a load there these days on those shoulders of yours.
Aye?
Sam's place is certainly run down. Did you see that broken window?
I know. And plaster all over the floor.
Henry, didn't I tell you to send those boys home?
It's only us, Sam.
Who?
A committee from the luncheon club.
Well, Johnson. Hello, Bradley. How'd you happen to come over?
Just thought we'd drop in and see how you are.
Well, I must have stepped on a plate here on the floor.
Didn't Henry pick that up?
Oh, that's all right, Sam. Sleeping dogs lie, eh?
Well, sit down, sit down.
No, we can't stay but a minute, Sam.
Hey, don't step on that piece of toast.
Yes, thanks for the warning.
You know, Sam, I can say it sincerely. You never looked so well in your life.
And I feel well. I feel fine.
Oh, that's keeping up the old spirits. You aren't worried, are you?
Who, I? Worried?
We tried to round out the
barbershop quartet for you. Well, I never felt better. The barbershop quartet?
Sam, why didn't you let us know about all this?
Well, I figured it was one of those things. I better grin and bear it alone.
Isn't that like him, Bradley? The same old Sam. Sam, they say it never rains but it pours. But remember this, it always shines afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose we'd better be going.
Yes, Bradley. We probably tired him as it is.
You've tired me?
Goodbye, Sam. Take care of yourself.
Well, I certainly appreciate your coming over.
And don't worry, Sam.
I never worry. Goodbye.
There, Johnson is a man of courage.
He's still young, Bradley. Vigorous. He can start all over. Say, let's go back to his room for a minute.
What for?
Well, no reason why I can't throw a little business his way, is there? Sam...
Oh, did you leave something?
As soon as you get on your feet, old man, drop into my office. I'd like to have a little talk with you.
Oh, certainly. I'll be glad to give you any help I can.
Hello, dear.
Oh, Alice.
Well, for goodness sake, Mr. Bradley.
How do you do?
And Mr. Johnson.
Well, Mrs. Aldrich, you're looking well.
And how is Sam feeling? Have a nice quiet day, dear.
Quiet isn't the word.
Well, you're not used to being alone. Sam, how do you like my new coat?
Oh, you bought that coat today?
Yes, dear. I worked so hard I had to do something to cheer myself up.
Well, Mrs. Aldrich, it's very good looking.
Yes, it certainly is.
Alice, where'd you get enough money to pay for it?
I charged it. But look at what I brought you, Sam, to make up for it.
What is it?
Some travel folders. I think it'd do you a world of good, dear, if you took a trip to South America.
South America?
South America?
South America?
Yes.
Alice, how could I possibly afford a trip to South America?
I'd go with you.
Oh, isn't that like her, Bradley? No matter how things look, she's always the one to joke about it.
Hello, Father.
Hi, Mary.
Oh, how do you do, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Bradley?
Well, how do you do, Mary?
Father, look at the lovely flowers that were sent to me at the hospital.
To you?
Yes, and it's the strangest thing. All the card said was, to a brave little girl.
Probably Joe Graham sent them to you as a joke.
Mary, are you home from the hospital for good?
For good?
How long were you there?
About 3/4 of an hour.
Well, isn't that fine?
Why don't we all sit down? I confess I'm a little tired.
You have a hard day, Alice.
Oh, I wouldn't work this hard for anyone but the Red Cross.
Mrs. Aldrich, did you say the Red Cross?
Yes, with the war in Korea, it's the least anyone can do.
Yes.
You've been working at the Red Cross?
I certainly have.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, isn't that fine?
Bradley, I think maybe we better be going.
Yes.
Mother, did you order that big basket of groceries down in the kitchen?
What basket?
I'm sure the store must have sent them by mistake.
Mary, supposing you give us that basket and let us return it to the store for you.
Oh, would you mind, Mr. Bradley? Somebody must have gotten things confused.
Yes, somebody must have.
Well, goodbye, Sam.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Alice, I don't know what to make of all this.
Make of what, Sam?
Mother, Father, what do you think's just been delivered?
What?
A ton of coal. And there's another poem with it.
I didn't order any coal.
It's from the Centerville Luncheon Club.
Sam, will you please tell me what's going on here?
Will someone please tell me why those two men acted as though I'm dying?
That's what I say. This afternoon when I went into Mr. Bradley's office, he didn't even know you'd been sick.
Henry, when you went in there, what did you say to Mr. Bradley?
Nothing. I just told him I had to peel the potatoes.
Mother, Miss Rumford just arrived to help us get dinner.
Get dinner? Our dinner?
Yes, she said Father told her on the phone that Henry was hurt.
Sam, what did you say to Miss Rumford?
Alice, before this goes any further, get me some aspirin and an ice bag.
Henry, you peeled the potatoes very well.
Thank you, Mother.
Now, who could that be?
I'll go see Father.
You're tired, aren't you, Sam?
That is an understatement. It's been a hard day, Alice. All I want now is a little quiet.
Well, you can go to bed right after dinner, dear.
Father?
Yes, Henry?
There are 4 men out on the porch, and one of them has a pitch pipe.
The Aldrich Family is transcribed as written by Clifford Goldsmith. Henry is played by Bobby Ellis and Homer by Jack Grimes. Mr. and Mrs. Aldrich are House Jameson and Catherine Roth. Your announcer is Dick Dudley. Listen again next week, same time, same station, for another sparkling half hour with the Aldrich Family.
Good night, everybody.
From November 30th, 1952, The Aldrich Family, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Visit my friend Ted over at radiomemories.com. He's just gone through a major restoration project on a lot of his classic radio collections over there. He supplies shows on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer at a very reasonable price. Talk to Ted at radiomemories.com. That's radiomemories.com. And a reminder to visit my webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows on demand. You can learn about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can contact me, and you, of course, can find our Classic Radio Theater social media links, and you can buy me a coffee. That Buy Me a Coffee money goes to help us expand our classic radio collections. That's at classicradio.stream. Thank this station. Support the advertisers. Have a great Wednesday, and tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.